They didn't just laugh at her, they dismissed her. 5 seasoned officers stood in a loose semicircle around the young woman, smirking as if she were a child who'd wandered into a world meant for giants. And as their taunts echoed through the training hall, Rookie Cadet Mara Hale felt the old sting rise in her chest, the one she thought she'd buried years ago. She wasn't supposed to be here, they said. She wasn't strong enough, fast enough, sharp enough. Not one of them imagined she would leave them stunned on the ground minutes later, struggling to understand how the rookie they mocked had just dismantled them all. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. Mara's first week at Fort Resolute had been a quiet avalanche of humiliation. Every corridor held whispers. Every drill was clouded by the same lingering doubt. Why her? Why someone with no connections, no powerful family, no military pedigree? She felt their judgment like invisible weights pressing against her shoulders. What they didn't know, what she couldn't bear to tell them, was that she wasn't there to prove she belonged. She was there to keep a promise. The promise she made to her older brother the night he left on his final deployment. The night he touched her forehead gently and whispered, "Strength isn't a shout." Mara, it's the quiet choice to keep going. She thought she'd never see him again. She was wrong. The training hall's high windows poured sunlight across the mats, illuminating every speck of dust drifting through the warm morning air. Mara stood alone in the center, pulse steady but hands trembling slightly. Her instinct screamed caution, but her pride begged for something else: dignity. Sergeant Vale, the towering officer who led the group, crossed his arms. "Rookie," he called, each syllable wrapped in a lazy smirk. "You sure you want this? You can still back out?" Mara took a slow breath. "I won't back out." A low chuckle rolled through the room. Vale raised an eyebrow at the others. "What? 5-on-1. Hand to hand, show us what you've got." She nodded. Not because she believed she could win, but because she knew she couldn't keep running for moments like this. And because deep inside her chest, the memory of her brother's soft, unwavering voice steadied her. But what she didn't expect was the moral weight pressing against her ribs. She didn't want to hurt anyone, only to stand her ground. Was proving her self-worth the violence that would follow? Was pride worth injury, theirs or hers? The air grew still. One officer stepped forward, and another. They moved casually, as if this were entertainment, not a challenge. Mara closed her eyes for a heartbeat. The world slowed, her breathing steadied, her fears shifted. They didn't disappear, they aligned themselves behind her, like loyal soldiers bracing for impact. The first officer lunged. She sidestepped, feeling his momentum pass like a gust of wind. She caught his arm, pivoted, and used his speed against him. He hit the mat with a thud. Gasps fluttered around the edges of the hall. The second came in harder. Too hard. More reckless. Mara ducked below the strike, swept his legs, and sent him tumbling beside his partner. By the third officer, the laughter had died. By the fourth, murmurs had begun to rise. By the fifth, the room felt different, tense, crackling, electric. She moved with a precision that didn't come from textbooks. It came from memory. Long nights practicing alone, analyzing every mistake, whispering her brother's words like a mantra. It came from hours spent rebuilding herself, after grief cracked her in half. In 2 minutes, maybe less, the hall went silent. 5 trained officers lay scattered around her, panting, stunned, their pride bruised deeper than their bodies. The sunlight glinted against the surface of the mats, capturing the awe in dozens of watching eyes. Sergeant Vale stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. Moral tension flickered through Mara. Had she humiliated them? Had she gone too far? She looked at their shocked faces and wondered if victory always had to taste bitter. Then Vale stepped forward. Slowly, deliberately. The remaining officers and recruits held their breath. Mara braced herself for anger, for reprimand, for more ridicule. Instead, Vale placed his hand on her shoulder. "You weren't fighting them," he said softly. "You were fighting every doubt you've carried for years." His voice wasn't mocking now. It held something warmer, something human. And today, he continued, "You won." A hush swept through the hall, not silence but respect settling like dust across sunlight. One of the officers she'd taken down finally pushed himself up. His face flushed, but his eyes were earnest. "Rookie, How did you move like that? Mara hesitated. Vulnerability rose in her throat, fragile but real. My brother taught me, she said quietly. Before he didn't come home. The hall softened. Even the air felt gentler. Vale nodded with solemn understanding. Then today wasn't about strength. It was about carrying him forward. Her chest tightened. A warmth she hadn't felt in years crept through her. The warmth of being seen, not judged. And then something unexpected happened. The officers she'd knocked down gathered around her, no longer mocking, no longer smirking. They stood in a small circle, shoulder to shoulder, offering hands and respect. A ripple of applause began near the back of the hall, then another, and like a rising tide, the entire room erupted. Not in shock, not in disbelief, but in admiration. Mara exhaled slowly, allowing the moment to wash over her. For the first time since arriving, she felt the faint, fragile beginnings of belonging. Because real strength isn't loud, it's the quiet courage to rise when no one believes you can. And as the echoes of applause faded into warm stillness, Mara realized something unexpected. The same hall that greeted her with ridicule now honored her with reverence. If this story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to Whispered Words, and stay with us for more stories that honor resilience, hope, and the courage we carry quietly inside.